I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. Religious groups make a last-ditch effort to stop implementation of the healthcare mandate. Plus, the release of a new book takes the sainthood cause of a French nun to a new level.
It's the first time that we've had really an in-depth biography and a spiritual journey of our mother.
And who possesses solutions to the global economic crisis? We need look no further than Pope Benedict. Good evening and thank you for joining us. August 1st, 2012. For Catholics across the country, the day holds significant meaning. On August 1st, opponents of the government's Health and Human Services mandate maintain companies across the country will have to choose between complying with the law and complying with their consciences. That's because beginning tomorrow, the initial implementation of the mandate means many businesses will be forced by the HHS mandate to start providing health plans that include abortion-inducing drugs, sterilization, and contraception without copay to employees despite their religious beliefs, and talk about safe harbors and religious exemptions. While entrepreneurs who refuse to comply will face steep fines. The policy exempts churches and houses of worship. Now, the exemption provided for religious employers does not cover hospitals, universities, soup kitchens, outreaches to the poor, and many other vital expressions of our Catholic faith and mission. Well, earlier I spoke with Matt Smith, president of Catholic Advocate, who says we will remember August 1st as the day our most cherished liberty evaporated. Matt, I've been doing a lot of reading on this. I've gotten a lot of rhetoric, a lot of verbiage. A lot of people are saying rest in peace tomorrow, August 1st, to religious liberties. Some people are calling it D-Day for religious liberties. In your own words, tell us, why is tomorrow so important?
Well, it's the beginning of the end. It is when the HHS mandate that everybody's been talking about, it started a year ago, August 5th, and now it's being fully implemented, and phase one is when businesses, for-profit entities, have to start implementing, providing free contraception, abortifacients, and sterilization services as part of their healthcare plans.
Now, Matt, I want to dial it back just briefly. Yesterday, we reported on a major blow to the Department of Health and Human Services mandate, which I'm sure you heard about, the first ever legal victory against the mandate, and that was a Colorado court granting a temporary injunction to family-owned Hercules Industries in Colorado. Matt, first, I want your reaction to that decision.
Well, it is a tremendous victory for those that want to be involved in providing a small business, being an employer. You know, small businesses are the largest growth area where jobs can be created in our country. But we have this great family there in Colorado, a Catholic family that was faced with a choice where do we keep our doors open, and if we do so, are we violating our beliefs and paying for something that it goes against our conscience? Mm-hmm. And so this brief injunction, while the case plays itself out in the courts, it is a victory and a model for what can happen in other parts of the country for other like-minded business people.
And here's the thing, now this injunction is only for Hercules, so let's break down who stands to bear the greater burdens beginning on August 1st. We have small and family-owned businesses, as you mentioned, that tend to have like boutique or custom insurance plans to conform to religious or value-oriented workplace cultures. What is their expected penalty?
Well, they will be fined, if they are non-compliant, they will be fined $100 per day per employee. So that could be as much as $1,000 a day for, the average small business that has maybe 10 people. That's $1,000 a day, $30,000 to $31,000 a month. Multiply that over a year, you're looking at $360,000. That's going to put a lot of small businesses out of work here in the country.
And it goes even deeper. We also have religiously affiliated nonprofits who qualify for a one-year safe harbor. How are they affected, if at all?
Well, this is basically just a stay of execution. You're being told you have a year to figure out a way to either violate your beliefs, or you have a year to come into compliance. Here's the kicker. At any time, the federal government can come in and say, reprieve is over. You don't have a year. You need to implement now. The other problem is that unless you had already received your tax designation prior to February of 2012, you're not allowed to go after the reprieve, which means that the federal government is now discouraging the creation of any new apostolates, any new religious affiliated entities that would want to care for the poor or provide services to those in need. So what we're saying is that religion no longer needs to apply in this country.
And there's another aspect to it. We do have employers that are in limbo. They don't even know yet if they qualify for the safe harbor, which, as you just explained, it could be quite a misnomer. They may only object to some, but not all of the services. Now, where do they stand?
Well, and that is a serious concern. One of the implementation issues is you have to provide services to only people of your particular doctrine of faith. Well, we as Catholics open our doors to everyone. Why should we have to say at the front door, oh, you're a Lutheran, sorry. Oh, well, you may not have a particular faith, sorry. We're not going to care for you. We're not going to heal your wounds. It is the most bizarre thing this country has ever seen.
Matt, if you could just explain to us in your words, for people that don't quite understand, what exactly are these lawsuits about? What exactly is the Catholic Church trying to convey to the government, and how are we going to go about making these changes?
Well, yeah, for a few things. The lawsuits that have been filed, and there are still many that are proceeding, is the church and other religiously affiliated institutions coming together to say that the government should not force us to purchase a product, provide a product for free that goes against our beliefs and our doctrine of faith. And so this goes to the core of the First Amendment of the Constitution, and providing that the government will not come in and intrude on our beliefs. And that's why these challenges are so important. And, that's going to take a while, though, for these lawsuits to proceed. And so in the meantime, there's some recourse. Congress still needs to act. There's the Respect for Rights of Conscience Act, which has unified all parts of ecumenical people of faith and organizations across this country to support this legislation, because not only does it address the mandate, but it addresses the other conscience protection parts of the health care law that was signed by President Obama 2 years ago. So there's the legislative fix, but unfortunately, that's going to probably get vetoed. Why would President Obama sign into law something that his administration has been advocating? Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be a really soul-searching moment for people of faith to walk into that voting booth with informed consent and make this issue a priority on Election Day.
Matt, in the time that we have left, you're really close to this issue. You're also very vocal about it. Why, in your opinion, do you think Congress has not done anything substantive so far?
I think that the other side, those that are advocating a culture of death, so to speak, that are advocating a culture of if it feels good, do it, and if there are consequences, then somebody else needs to pay for them. A culture where, under the guise of preventative services, we're going to force institutions to pay for personal choices that people make. And if we don't fight now, what else are we going to be forced to do? What else are we going to be forced to pay for? What other areas are we going to have to violate our beliefs down the road at any point in time? It is an extremely slippery slope.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. I understand we caught you last minute. You were kind enough to do this interview with us, and I really do appreciate your giving us some perspective on this. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Now, with regard to the decision in favor of Colorado-based Hercules, the Department of Health and Human Services had this to say, quote, "We are confident that as this case moves through the courts, the policy that most health insurance plans cover contraception will be upheld. Preventive services are critical to women's health, and the administration is committed to ensuring women have access to the health care they need, regardless of where they work. Health decisions should be between women and their doctors, not their employers." Stay tuned. The day's top headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. In tonight's headlines, Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of New York are preparing to reorganize by region. Beginning this fall, all the schools in the Archdiocese will start restructuring into 9 different regions. This will include further school closings, officials explain. And speaking of closings, to avoid that, some Catholic schools across the country are using marketing as a tool to stay alive. Catholic schools are being asked to think outside the box in order to preserve their existence. Our Lady of Lourdes, a school in Los Angeles, was about to close its doors after 97 years of teaching children. However, it was saved by the unexpected tactics of its new principal. The new principal recruited families and children by knocking on doors and offering Xboxes. Now, this seems to be the trend among Catholic schools. The national decline of Catholic enrollment is being blamed on a cultural change. Over the past year, 167 Catholic schools have closed across the United States. If we want to continue to survive, we have to think like a business, said Domenico Pilato. She heads the school marketing project of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. So now, in order to keep these institutions open, many schools are hiring full-time marketing directors and offering social media training in order to stay current. In other education news, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo plans to veto a special education bill. This bill requires school officials to consider religion when approving taxpayer-funded tuition for private school special ed students. School officials fear that the bill could create a voucher-like system which caters to families of all sorts of lifestyles, and it would all be paid for by government funds. Private tuition and transportation for special education students can cost approximately $100,000 a year per child. A Cuomo administration official said that the governor viewed the bill as, quote, an unfunded mandate that would place a significant burden on local school districts. And Romney praises Pope John Paul while in Poland. He told this story about the late pontiff.
Pope John Paul II celebrated Mass with you in a square not far from here. He reminded the world that there would be no justice in Europe without an independent Poland. And he reminded the Polish people, long deprived of that independence, from where they drew their source of strength. While he was greeting a crowd along a fence, he met a little girl. He paused and asked her, "Where is Poland?" The little girl, caught off guard, couldn't answer him. She laughed nervously until the great Pope put his hand over her heart and said, "Poland is here." John Paul II understood that a nation is not a flag or a plot of land. It is a people, a community of values, and the highest value Poland honors to the world's great fortune is man's innate desire to be free.
The presumptive Republican nominee for the White House was wrapping up his week-long overseas tour. To Olympian news now, where one swimmer claims that the key to all her accomplishments is a sense of humility. Leah Neal, who lives in Brooklyn and attends the convent of the Sacred Heart School in Manhattan, won the bronze medal in the women's 4x100 freestyle relay on July 28th. And in other Summer Olympic news, Catholic churches in London open up for visitors of the Games. They are serving as hospitality centers and offer games and a relaxing prayer garden. Several of the churches are open 24/7 for these purposes. A mass bell ringing of the churches occurred yesterday morning. Big Ben rang for 3 minutes, the first time since King George VI's funeral in 1952. And Saint Hildegard of Bingen is going to become a doctor come this October. Rome Reports has details.
Saint Hildegard of Bingen is known for many things, but this coming October 7th she'll also be known as the Doctor of the Catholic Church.
She didn't just focus on theology and spirituality. She also composed music and wrote quite a bit about medicine. She also wrote theater plays and poetry.
A doctor of the Church is someone whose theological teachings remain relevant regardless of time. Even though she was a medieval writer, composer, and philosopher, perhaps she's mostly known for her religious visions. They dealt with creation, redemption, God, humanity, and the Church. In fact, before going public, a theological committee approved the authenticity of her visions.
When it was approved by Pope Eugene III, through the meditation of St. Bernard, she was given the green light to share those visions she had kept inside.
She was born in Germany in the year 1098 and studied in a Benedictine monastery before becoming a nun at the age of 15. In 2010, the Pope talked about her life and impact in two general audiences.
Hildegard used her spiritual gifts for the renewal of the Church and the spirit of our authentic Christian living.
In time, her writings were published and her visions were represented in drawings. Many people were impressed since she dealt with issues that were ahead of her time, especially for a woman living in the 12th century. In her spare time, she even started a new language.
She created a language she named Ignota, which she started on her own.
She had a strong character and wouldn't shy away from confronting people even if they had a high ranking in the church. She exchanged letters with popes, emperors, kings, which was unthinkable for a woman of that time period. She also founded a monastery for her fellow nuns. She died in the year 1178 at the age of 81, but her teachings still remain alive.
And finally tonight, happy birthday to the Pope's personal secretary. Rome Reports has more.
Despite his youth, he's one of the most important figures in the papal household. Georg Ganswein is the Pope's personal secretary, who just turned 56 years old. He was born July 30th, 1956 in a small German town. He went on to become ordained in 1984 at the age of 28. In 1993, he moved to Rome to work in the Vatican, and 3 years later began working in the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith by the direct wish from the then Cardinal Ratzinger. In 2003, Joseph Ratzinger appointed him as his personal secretary, a job that would change dramatically when 2 years later, Ratzinger would be elected Pope. Since then, he has become the shadow of Benedict XVI. A special webpage was created to offer thanks for all his work under the Pope. There, people can leave their own messages and videos to wish a happy birthday to the Pope's assistant.
More currents after the break. Coming up, revealing the letters of a Benedictine saint. Her sainthood cause has reached all the way to the Vatican.
I was fascinated of this great figure, great mystic.
While everyone is watching images of world-class athletes from the London Olympics these days, the Vatican is focusing on London for another reason. The Vatican recently published a biography of a French nun who served in London. The saintly sister just may be on the track to canonization. Rome Reports has more.
Mother Adèle Garnier was a French Benedictine nun born near Dijon in 1838. She founded the Tyburn Convent in London, on the site where 4 English martyrs were executed during the Protestant Reformation. Now the Vatican has put a spotlight on this French nun as a possible candidate for sainthood. The Vatican Press has published her biography titled The Path of Mother Adèle Garnier, written by Father Gianmario Piga, an Italian military chaplain. Father Piga analyzed some 1,500 unpublished letters between Mother Adèle and her spiritual directors.
We collaborate because they asked me to the transcription of all the letters, because they need some people who could speak could translate in French, and I started to work with them. And after I was fascinated of this great figure, great mystic.
Adèle Garnier first had a small community following in Montmartre, Paris, but was forced to leave France because of anti-clerical laws. In 1901, she arrived in England, where she founded the Adorers of the Sacred Heart of Jesus of Montmartre. The Tyburn nuns that carry on Mother Adèle's order hope that this will help to open her cause for canonization.
We're very glad to have it done because it's the first time that we've had really an in-depth biography and a spiritual journey of our mother. It wasn't able to do it before this simply because there was so much to collect and collate and to put in order in our archives and to find them all.
Mother Adèle died in London's Tyburn Convent in 1924. The order of nuns that she created has since spread throughout the world. Her biography is now available in English, French, Italian, and Spanish. As for the Tyburn nuns, they are waiting for the day that they can refer to their founder as Saint Mother Adèle.
And as you may know, Blessed Pope John Paul II canonized more than 300 saints during his pontificate. Pope Benedict has made sainthood official for 45 people. Only time will tell whether Mother Adele will be among the future saints of the Church. Stay tuned. There's more currents after the break. When we return, Pope Benedict outlines 6 steps to solve the global economic crisis. Now, while neither of the top presidential candidates have officially been nominated by their respective parties, the race for the White House is in full swing with less than 100 days to go before Election Day. While there are many issues being hotly debated around the country, the economy is certain to be on the minds of most citizens. How should Catholics put economics into a faith perspective? Well, Pope Benedict XVI has put forth 6 principles to guide the world's economy, and Rome Reports tells us what they are.
Benedict XVI has spoken out many times over his concern for the world economy. Most notably, in his encyclical Caritas in Veritate, he put forward the concepts he considered essential to overcome the economic crisis. The first is the principle of gratuitousness. It means that relationships between people should not be viewed in terms of benefits, and it's good that there is capacity to help others.
L'economia ha bisogno dell'etica per il suo corretto funzionamento. Ha bisogno di recuperare l'importante contributo del principio di gratuità e della logica del dono nell'economia del mercato, dove la regola non può essere il solo profitto.
The second is the logic of the gift. Benedict XVI calls for generosity, asking to look beyond personal benefits because this only leads to a weakened society.
Questo è possibile unicamente grazie all'impegno di tutti, economisti e politici, produttori e consumatori, e presuppone una formazione delle coscienze che dia forza ai criteri morali nell'elaborazione dei progetti politici ed economici.
Next is the idea of subsidiarity, which says that matters should be handled by the smallest competent authority. It's a matter of not intruding in the private sector, but also remembering that governments are responsible for social issues. It also says that each individual must do their part.
Si va sempre più ripetendo un diverso stile di vita da parte dell'umanità intera, in cui i doveri di ciascuno verso l'ambiente si colleghino a quelli verso la persona, considerata in se stessa e in relazione agli altri.
Then there is the principle of solidarity. People should look to each other for help in order to overcome indifference, envy, greed, and hatred.
L'umanità è una sola famiglia. Il dialogo fecondo tra fede e ragione non può che arricchirla, rendendo più efficace l'opera della carità nel sociale e costituendo la cornice appropriata per incentivare la collaborazione tra credenti e non credenti nella condivisa prospettiva di lavorare per la giustizia e la pace nel mondo.
Next is a global political authority, which is aimed at avoiding chaos and anarchy. It says that society needs to respect the law, which should be clear, as well as respect people of all faiths.
La necessità di un'autorità politica mondiale regolata dal diritto, che si attenga ai menzionati principi di sussidiarietà e solidarietà e sia fermamente orientata alla realizzazione del bene comune nel rispetto delle grandi tradizioni morali e religiose dell'umanità.
There is also the idea of the center of the person. Here the Pope isn't looking to save the system, but rather the people involved.
L'enciclica, certo, non mira ad offrire soluzioni tecniche alle vaste problematiche sociali del mondo odierno. Non è questa la competenza del Magistero della Chiesa. Essa ricorda però i grandi principi che si rivelano indispensabili per costruire lo sviluppo umano dei prossimi anni. Tra queste in primo luogo l'attenzione alla vita dell'uomo, considerata come centro di ogni vero progresso.
These 6 ideas are aimed at fixing the financial system and rebuilding a new one that would be more humane and fair to all people.
And that is all for tonight. Be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. You can also follow us on Twitter. Look for us there at CurrentsNY. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faubles. We leave you tonight with fireworks from last Friday's opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games in London. Thank you for watching and have a good night.